Mic check 1 2 3. Mic check 1 2 3.
This is Channel 2 News, coverage you can count on.
Wow, take a look here. We saw more flash flooding today across parts of northern Nevada as storms continue to roll into town. When we could see more stable conditions as Stormwatch tops Channel 2 News at 5 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kristen Remington. Wendy is off tonight. Thank you for being with us. We do begin with Stormwatch team coverage for you tonight. Chief Meteorologist Mike Alders in the Weather Center tracking the latest round of storms. And Amanda Ketchledge is live at Jerry Whitehead Elementary School in Sparks with a look at all the damage from the recent flooding. Mike, let's start with you. You know, we saw some storms come in earlier today than yesterday, it seemed. Yeah. Is more rain on the way?
Well, very possibly. We are finally getting to that stage of this storm system, or this storm pattern, I should say. It's not one system, obviously, but we're finally getting to that stage where the low pressure system that's been kind of helping to steer up a lot of the activity is beginning to make a move, and it's going to move out. Now, as it does so, it's coming across us right now, and it is still circulating around, some dynamic and certainly a lot of moisture and instability. And even though the temperatures have dropped off, which on the one hand will slow down the development of thunderstorms, the low itself getting closer and coming over us kind of counteracts that. So we still have pockets here and there of very, very strong activity across the region. Let's first of all look and show you what I mean about the position of the low. You can see the circulation that's happening down just to the south of us. That low has moved in. It's actually split into a couple pieces here. You got some rotation here, you got some kind of hanging offshore, but it's this main one, and we're still circulating all that stuff around. Now, in the short term here, the next 24 hours, notice things again will kind of die out tonight, and then tomorrow we're going to pop some up, but it's not going to be the widespread, real strong stuff. It's probably going to be a little more pop-up air mass thunderstorm type of a pattern. But again, a good 30% chance we're going to see it again tomorrow. Here's what's happening, though. There's still enough energy out there to produce not only severe thunderstorms, but also to produce a lot of flooding rains here. And at this point, some of the closest stuff to us, this cell here that's going through Fallon right now, is working its way toward us, and as it does so, we have a chance of picking up some of this. In fact, a couple of bands up here to the north you can see quite strong as they're crossing Interstate 80. They're moving in toward Fernley, and very easily these could kind of sweep on down. Now you notice a lot of these boxes here and there that are popping up. Flash flood warnings up near Elko there. Severe thunderstorm warnings. The orange boxes are strong severe thunderstorm activity, and it's kind of hard to keep track of because they are still all popping up all around and located around this basic rotation that's going across the region here. Now, I do expect that this is, like I say, going to calm down a little bit later tonight, and then when it comes back tomorrow, it'll probably be just a little bit less aggressive than it was today. Just as today, even with all the activity we're seeing, is a little less aggressive than what we saw yesterday. As we go into the weekend, things should calm down significantly. We'll tell you more about that coming up with a complete forecast here in just a little bit.
All right, Mike, sounds good. Thanks for the update there. And while things have cleared out now, it was a much different story earlier this afternoon in Sparks. Amanda, how did flash flooding impact the residents there?
Well, Kristen, flash flooding came through the streets here, like at Jerry Whitehead Elementary, where you can see behind me that there's a lot of mud and water on that playground. And also for Keith Kelly, who lives on Springland Drive, he saw several feet of water as well.
It was probably up about 2 or 3 feet, about 2 or 3 feet into my yard and everything else, taking sand and gravel and everything down the street.
While Kelly isn't worried about water damaging his house, he's been trying to sweep up the debris in his front yard. Neighbors here say it rained and hailed for about 25 minutes total, and several people say today wasn't as bad as previous storms these last couple days, but the damage is still significant. Crews have also been cleaning up the area these last couple hours, and while the heavy downpour earlier today, Tiffany McDougall was finally able to come out of her apartment to get her groceries.
My apartment is up here on Los Altos, and it just floods every time it rains, so there's huge rivers outside both my doors.
And while residents here are planning to keep cleaning up these next couple of days, they're hoping that today is the last they'll see of flash flooding. Covering Stormwatch Live, Amanda Ketchledge, Channel 2 News.
Yeah, Amanda, it has been a hectic week for Minden residents as well, with heavy rains causing some flash flooding down there. And just a day after a state of emergency was declared in Douglas County, residents there are bracing for the next round. Paul Nelson has more from Minden.
Heavy rain pelted the Carson Valley again today. And after the recent flash floods, first responders are focusing on safety of the public.
Making sure they're protected from floodwaters in their vehicles, making sure that anybody who's entrapped in their home, we have the ability to get to.
A major concern is the drainage ditches. Yesterday's flood filled many of them with mud and clogged the culverts, making the water's path unpredictable.
Unfortunately, a tremendous amount of water in a very short period of time is going to overwhelm most well-designed systems.
While the valley got pounded with a high dose of rain, there was also quite a bit that happened up in the mountains, and as that accumulated, it came right down in a river, slicing right through this road. The wash flowed right through a popular area for off-roading, taking dirt, brush, and boulders with it, blocking access in certain areas.
We were out here for maybe 7 minutes, and there was just a trickle of water, and then all of a sudden a surge come down, and there you go, you got a running river now.
More than 100 people have worked since last night trying to clear ditches and roads of debris. Luckily, most water stayed in the ditches, but some flowed over driveways and streets. Residents lined up to collect sandbags to protect their possessions just in case the water rose too quickly or flowed out of control onto their property.
You're probably good here.
I'm just worried that it's going to come into our backyard and sweep away what we've got. So I'm going to take precautions that way.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. No problem.
Others came from a few miles away to help friends that could be affected by the flash floods.
I got friends out here, and anything I can do to help them, that's what it's all about. Good Lord blesses us, so help your neighbor.
Covering Stormwatch, Paul Nelson, Channel 2 News.
And today's rain lasted for about a half hour, but wasn't as severe as last night's storm. Officials say most damage was limited to drainage ditches and roadways. Well, whenever severe weather comes to northern Nevada, turn to Channel 2 News for Stormwatch continuing coverage on the air, online, and on Facebook and Twitter. And you can keep track of the weather no matter where you are using our free Channel 2 News weather app. It gives you the radar, forecast, watches and warnings, and more right in the palm of your hand. You can download it by searching KTVN in the Google Play or Apple Store. Looking around the nation now, today the director of the FBI said law enforcement stopped several potentially violent attacks ahead of the 4th of July weekend. Director James Comey said he believes some of the more than 10 people caught in the month before the 4th of July were planning acts of violence around that weekend. He declined to give any specific details about which potential plots were disrupted. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security had warned of a heightened terrorist threats ahead of last weekend. And for much more on the disrupted attacks, stay tuned for the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley up next at 6. Today, the governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley, signed a bill to remove the Confederate flag and its pole from outside the Capitol building in Columbia. The move to take down the battle flag gained momentum last month following the deaths of 9 black parishioners at the Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston.
These 9 pins are going to each of the 9 families of the Emmanuel 9.
Overnight, South Carolina's House passed the bill to remove it. After the Senate passed it earlier this week, the flag will be removed from the Capitol grounds during a ceremony at 10 a.m. local time tomorrow. Looking around the world now, all eyes are on Greece and its last-ditch effort for a European bailout that both the Eurozone and the Greeks can live with. Greeks rallied in front of the country's parliament in Athens tonight as the government submitted economic reform proposals to be reviewed by the country's creditors ahead of a summit of European leaders on Sunday. Greece is seeking $59 billion as part of a new bailout package. That's according to draft legislation submitted to Parliament early Friday morning in Athens. Aaron Bream got a personal look at the situation there today by contacting Manos Maragakis, who is the Dean of Engineering at the University of Nevada, but is currently in his homeland of Greece. Aaron, how did you contact him?
Actually, by Skype, Kristen. He's there just for a few weeks on school business, and then he'll be taking some personal time for family members there.
I caught up with him on the island of Mykonos. He says, indeed, the banks have closed and there are capital limits on withdrawing money for locals, but tourists have access to their foreign accounts.
Personally, I'm not very much affected because I can still withdraw my personal limit, but the people here are having a terrible time.
He says the international media has exaggerated the situation there.
It's not a big drama here. Yes, there are lines at the ATMs, but they're not lines of 200 people or something. I mean, occasionally you can see 20 people lined up, then the lines move relatively fast.
He says remaining a part of the EU seems to be a common wish of the people, but they have some common fears for the future, too, no matter what happens.
There is lots of fear that there's going to be, that the country is going to have a major setback and go many years behind.
So what's the answer? A compromise. Maragakis says the Greek government needs serious tax reform and leniency.
The government here recommends that we start approaching more aggressively people with higher incomes and leaving the people with lower income where they are, not more cuts. And they are asking for an adjustment of the debt.
And adjustments could come in a number of forms, from extending the debt deadline to cutting the interest rate on that debt. Because as it is, the poorest are paying that debt off. There's no way to catch up. And to continue, the Greeks need to have an end in sight.
This agreement is a long-term agreement that will have austerity measures, no doubt, but at the same time, there will be a plan of how the debt can be served.
You got to remember, makes up only a very small overall part of the overall economy in Europe, just 2 to 3%. But if Greece were to fail, it could cause a huge domino effect on the rest of the EU. Covering the story, Aaron Bream, Channel 2 News.
Looking to our community now, today the Nevada Discovery Museum unveiled a new exhibit all about the human body. It's called Inside Out, an anatomy experience. The 2,500-foot exhibit features almost 50 different hands-on stations that let kids and adults learn about the human body in an interactive way.
There's a skeleton marionette in this space that allows you to move your body and have a skeleton move with you, so you get a feel for what your skeletal system does. One of my favorites is an exhibit where you get to use actually your jawbone to hear music.
The museum says they hope the new exhibit will attract a broader cross-section of the population by appealing to both older children and adults as well. It'll last for at least 5 years and will open to the public on Saturday. Should be fun. Well, please mark your calendars and join us for our annual Give to Live blood drive. It's happening at the Atlantis Resort Spa on Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Walk-ins are always welcome, but if you don't want to wait, you can make an appointment online. For a link to do that, head to KTVN.com and click on the blue News Links button.
So have you ever wondered how license plates are made in the Silver State? Well, now there's a brand new factory to get that task done. I'm Landon Miller. We'll show you it coming up at 5:30.
Plus, in tonight's Someone to Know, proof arthritis doesn't discriminate. How a Reno teenager is working to make a difference amid all her pain.
We are starting to see some thunderstorms approach from the east, and we have a brand new severe thunderstorm warning that has just been posted. We'll update you on that and give you the forecast for the weekend coming up right after this.
You're watching Channel 2 News at 5, Northern Nevada's #1 newscast, with Wendy DeMonte, Kristen Remington, and Mike Alter's Pinpoint 2 forecast. Thanks for watching.